Anybody has the answer about that? True. False and true. By the way, this is a notion now. It can be a notion now. It's not fully. False true. Alright, here's the answer. You can see it.
Figure it out. Well, SFAP does the boxing and unboxing. So that will do what you expect it to do. It says you put in there a S number of no, and it will, even though his read is a bull, it will do the correct unboxing and get the boolean out and set the what you expect. So there, we're setting it to his read is no, so it should be false for the first one. You agree? And the second one, this is easy to get wrong. A form selector with object does not do any unboxing. So what you're doing there is it won't remain probably. If you pass in no, what you will do is it will treat that object as a boolean. So it will be non-zero, so therefore it will treat it as true. So
wait a moment. Once it's a pointer address that ends with 0, 0, it might be also false if you're lucky enough that edge no true is at an address which is converted to 8-bit, which will result in false too.
Wait a second. I've tested this before. Okay,
it depends on the location of the pointer.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Right? But the pointer in this case is a real object. It's not nil. It's not zero. So it's going to be true. Right? Not zero. Okay, it's possible maybe that you end up right on a rounding boundary and you end up exactly on zero. But okay, in the general case, you're not going to do that. Okay, that's a good point though. You really unlucky. and actually sometimes get the right answer. And then you're really in trouble. Hopefully it will be one thing. But anyway, the point here is that SFAP does do the unboxing and performs the together. About the first one, I maybe should explain that a little bit more while we chance. A lot of people assume that when they queue up blocks, that they will put run before the next block. And that's not the case with the concurrent queue. They start in the right order, but there's no guarantee that they will finish in that order. And that was the point of the exercise. You think I'm queuing up blocks, and then I queue one at the end and do the NS log, so it must start after the others, right? Well, that's not the case. The concurrent queue, they start in that order, but of course they don't have to finish in that order.
Quick question, quick feedback to you guys. Well, like to do those kind of live coding. Do you think it's a good idea to do that next year? Something like that? Okay, alright. You can see
everyone else.
I just wanted to have some of your visuals. Okay, let's start. And you are allowed to go a little bit over the function because we got to that.
So in software, we've got a few different choices in terms of how we lead our careers. Right? You can join the empire. You can join a big company like Apple or Google, or some smaller company like Omni Group or Panic, and you can get a salary and have a secure job, and that's one way you can go. And ultimately, you're writing someone else's software. So what are the other options? Okay, another option is you can become a rebel. You can join a startup and try to defeat the empire. Now, startups are great in certain ways too. They're exciting environments. You have to probably work very hard. You've probably got a good salary, and who knows where you'll be next year, right? So it's a reasonably unstable situation. But it's exciting. It's got its own positives. The third option, become a bounty hunter. Right? Go out on your own as a freelancer. Actually, contract your work out to companies. Companies pay you to do work. The advantages here, you get lots of flexibility. You can work when you want. You can charge a high hourly rate. You have quite a good income if you can keep working. There's of course not much stability. I mean, you have to keep looking for new contracts. But as long as there's enough work, you can do very well. downside, maybe you're still working for other people, you're still doing someone else's projects, and they can still complain about, they can giggle things, and it's not always fun to work for someone else, depending on who it is. And lastly, the last option, which I want to talk about today, is you can be hand-sold. Right? You can sell your own web, develop and sell your own web. Now, some people will say, okay, Han Solo was actually a smuggler, he wasn't actually selling his own web. Let's just ignore that for a moment and just concentrate on the selling bit. So today I want to talk about setting up a company, a small company, working for yourself, making your own products and selling them. Some other people will also say that Han Solo was actually alone, right? He wasn't working alone. And that's true, he did have a designer, but he worked mostly alone. He was at least a one human company. Right? So today I want to talk about one people companies, one person companies, and also maybe two people, 1 to 2 people companies, so small companies, very small. Now, there has been a bit of criticism I've seen on Twitter and on the internet about sort of lifestyle businesses, like you might set up when you start a one-person company. Some people say, if you choose that route, you're not really trying, you're not doing your best in humanity. You're not trying to solve world hunger. You should get some VC capital. You should set up a 20 or 30 man company and be the next Twitter. Right? So this is what some people think is a way to solve the world's problems. And sure, that is for some people the way to do it, but there's nothing to be ashamed about in being a one-person company. One or two people companies actually fulfill a very important role in the software ecosystem. They fill up niches which otherwise wouldn't be addressed. And let's face it, some of the biggest companies on earth, or biggest companies at least in the tech industry, started out really it's just a 1 or 2 person venture. You think Zuckerberg was really thinking he'll create a $100 billion company when he started making his websites at Harvard? I don't think he was. I think he was just mucking around trying to pick up chicks. What about the guys from Google? Were they thinking, let's solve world hunger? No, I don't think so, because they were doing research. They actually started out in research, right? They were doing sort of computational research in search. And eventually that led to a company, but I don't think that they started out thinking we'll create one of the world's biggest companies. And even our friend and mentor, Steve Jobs, started out in sort of a very mild, mid position. The 2 of them started out, as we all know, in the garage, and Steve would take his 50 motherboards to the local computer shop and try to sell them. And he has even said in interviews that they weren't really out to solve world hunger at that point. They were just trying to basically cover costs, break even, really. So all of these people started off doing something quite small, just trying to solve a problem, and that led to something big. They didn't start off thinking, let's get venture capital from day one. They started with a problem, they solved the problem, and eventually they did lead to big companies. So there's no shame, in my opinion, in starting small and just solving the problem on your own, or with your best friend or whatever. Now, some of the greatest people in history have also worked alone. In fields like science, right? People like Einstein and Newton, they never really worked alone. Okay? Vinci, great artist as well as a great scientist. Artists like Picasso, a painter, is almost always working alone. And a writer like James Joyce. So, developing software on your own is a lot like being a painter or a writer, in my opinion. And I have actually written a book, and so I know kind of what it's like to write a book and write software. And to me, the two are very similar to the way you work. And it's a very creative process, and it's intense because you're the only person there. If it's going to work out, it's going to be because of you. If it's going to fail, it's going to be because of you. Right? there's kind of pressure there, but it's also intense as a result of that. Now you're going to say to me probably, these are great people, great writers, great scientists. What's that got to do with me? I'm in the app business. We're in the real world here. I'm not talking about most famous people on earth. Well, there are also great app developers that work alone or work in very small teams. Who knows who that is? Anyone know who that is?
Will Shipley.
It's Will Shipley, right. So Will Shipley, of course, in the Mac world became very, very well known when he set up Delicious Monster, where the product called Delicious Library, with just one other person, Mike McCask, a designer, and they worked from a coffee shop, and they set up this software and sold it with them. And as far as I know, his team is still very small today. Many years later, it's still a relatively small team. So that's an example of having a company and keeping it relatively small. Daniel Jalkin, these are sort of heroes of mine that I was learning to develop for the Mac. Daniel Jalkin develops Mars, and he runs this company entirely on his own, and has done for I think 10 years, and does very well. Gus Mueller. I like that Gus has got multiple products. He's got not simple products. He's got BrewPad, he's got Acorn, and he develops most of the stuff on his own as far as I know. And a more recent addition, some of you may know from the iOS world, Marco, he develops Instapaper. And what I like about Marco's company is that he does it all on his own, and it's not just an iOS app, it's a pretty serious web service as well, right? It's really a web app with an iOS client. And he revealed, I think last week in his podcast, that he spends about $11,000 a month on his web costs. So that's a pretty serious web service for one guy to run. And at the same time, he can make a very nice iOS client. So it's possible to do, right? You can make some pretty serious apps on your own these days. Now, it maybe sounds like I'm bashing teams here. I don't mean to bash teams. I like teams myself. I've been in teams. This is me in 1993 back in the rock band. Teams are great. You work towards a common goal, and there's a lot of social aspects that are better than working alone. There's no question about that. But at the same time, you share, you dissipate responsibility to some extent, but also the highs and lows get dissipated to some extent. So if the thing's a success, it's like, well done guys, let's go and have a drink. And it's cool and everything, but it's not like as intense as if you've spent a year doing something on your own, and it's your baby, and you put it out there and it does well. But there's of course the flip side of that as well, right? I mean, if you put it out there and it does really bad, even if it doesn't do bad, you just get this sort of you just get wreck your day, right? This sort of stuff can wreck your day. Because it's your baby, you take it personally, right? If someone puts a bad review up, they don't even realise maybe that you're on your own and that they're talking to some 50-person company. But when you see stuff like that or get a bad and nasty email, you really take it personally because you made that painting. It's like you have your class and you painted that painting and someone's taking a piss out of it. So you've got to learn to deal with that. You are going to do it. You've got to learn to deal with that and find ways to not take it too personally. So I've sort of come on a little bit of that in some abstract terms. Let's actually look at the pros and cons here of working alone, working in a small company, just out of the thought. So the cons, uncertainty. Like I said before, in a company you've got a salary, you've got sort of guaranteed that you've got a job for a while, and you've got a certain fixed amount of money coming in every month. In this business, as an app developer, you don't have that, right? I'll give you an example. Say the worst month of the year for me is about a third of revenue as the best month. So that's a pretty wide spread. That means in a bad month, you're getting a third as much as you do in a good month. So it goes up and down all year. You have to make sure that you're not spending any money in one hit. or whatever when it comes in, and then having nothing for the next month when it's slow. Volatility, you can have the market is volatile, right? So we talked a little bit about yesterday about being Sherlocked. You know, Apple could start developing a competitor, or a competitor from outside of another company would come in. So it's kind of risky and volatile in that sense. So you have to be able to handle that. It's risky. You can develop your next big thing for 6 months, a year, and then Apple rejects it, or Apple accepts it, and it just doesn't sell, right? So you're taking this enormous bet every time you develop a new product. You can break the company in some ways. And the last thing there, lonely. It doesn't have to be lonely, but of course, if you're working on your own, you have to. You're often going to be alone. You can take, you of course can go to a shared workplace like in Amsterdam or something like that. That's a good way to get around that if you don't like being alone. But yeah, often you're working on your own. Okay, the pros. So chiefly, the thing that really appealed to me in this job was just being my own boss. I hated being told to do something and knowing that it was a complete waste of time. I just hated it. That's the worst thing in the world. So at least now I know if I decide to do something and it's not a good idea, it's my fault, it's just comes down to me. So I'm at least motivated to do the work I do. So being your own boss, that's a good thing. Lazy, I say lazy, you can't really be lazy, of course, but what I mean by that is you can choose your own hours, you can get up all day, you can work for night, you like working at night. If you want to go away for 3 months, if you want to get a product to the market, in theory you can go away for 3 months. As long as you've got an internet connection, you can get your help support going. At some point you probably need to update your product, but yeah, you can be a bit lazy if you want to, once you've got the product on the market. Okay, choosing. You pick and choose what you want to do, right? It's another thing. You pick your projects. Pick projects that appeal to you, that sound like something you really like to make. You don't have to do what the boss says. You don't have to do what the market says. You can just try to find something that you think will sell, and at the same time, you're interested. You find interesting, and then you do that. So you can choose picking. And lastly, freely. One thing I like about the job is that the term I always use is geo-equivalent, right? You can live anywhere, and you can go. I like to say you can go to Puerto Rico for 3 months. As long as you've got an internet connection, it doesn't matter. So you can do whatever you want and work whatever you want. Okay, so I've told you sort of the pros and the cons, and maybe I've convinced you that it's not such a bad thing. But I think probably a lot of you in the back of your head are thinking, I'm going to have to take a massive pay cut to do this, right? I mean, how much am I going to earn? I mean, it's all very vague until you see concrete figures. And so I'm going to do something really pretty controversial. And most people won't tell you how much they earn. Very few people do that. And I'm just going to tell you how much I earn, so that you know. So that you know how much you can earn with an app. Now, first of all, I should introduce the app because it's going to be different for every app maker. The apps that I make are called mental case. It's actually one app on multiple platforms. There's a Mac app, there's iOS variants, and they sync up. Okay? They're apps for students. Okay, so it's for studying. It's like a flashcard app on steroids. So this is a kind of a niche market, right? It's not students is a reasonably niche market, but it's not the mainstream, I would say. And I'm guessing that most people here have never heard of the app, right? So what we're talking about here is not Instapaper. It's not a massively popular app. I'm not in the top 10 of the App Store every week, right? These are just middle of the road apps. So what you're going to see is how much I earn from middle of the road apps, and this is how much you can earn from middle of the road apps. So I quit my job in 2009. These figures are in euros, and they are the total after Apple's cut. before any other cost or taxation. So this is what Apple sends to me in check. Right? And I started in 2009, and you can see there, it was a leap of faith. I wasn't earning that much in 2009, about 30,000 euro, which was okay because I did have a job for a few months that year as well. It was sort of a changeover period, so together that was okay. But it was a leap of faith, definitely. It was a risk. I knew I was taking a risk, but I figured if I could build up my company over time, and I could because I've been working full time on it, that my products would eventually build up. And again, you can see that. So over time, they've built up. And this year, it's a projection, of course, because we're not quite there yet, but something just under 150,000 euros. So some of you will be thinking, okay, that's more than I thought. I think you get a relatively obscure app. And others will be thinking, well, with my 150 euro an hour freelancing business, I can do a lot more than that. But that's fine too. The point here is just that, you've got to balance that income with freedom, if you will, whether you like developing your own apps and being that artist or being that scientist or whatever, to create things and put them out on the market. It just depends on how you like to work. So let's assume that I've convinced you that you want to do it. How do you get started? How do you start down this road? And this is actually the hardest part of the whole process, bootstrapping. Right? The word says it all, bootstrapping. It's picking yourself up by the bootstraps, which physically is very difficult, and also in the business world is very difficult. You've got nothing, you've got no product, you've got no money probably, and you've got to try to produce something from nothing. And that's really difficult. And I think the main thing is to be consistent. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be very few app makers win the lottery. We all hear about these app makers that win the lottery, but they're actually very few of them. Most of the successful ones just work hard and work, keep going. Every time something goes wrong, they just keep going, and eventually they get there. There's a great quote here from Joel Spolsky from a micro ISVs. And I like it because it really describes how my business started. I'll read it out. That's right, I have a crystal ball, and it can now tell you one fact that you need to know more than anything else. Exactly how much money you're going to make during the first month after your product goes live. Ready? Okay, in the first month, you were going to make about $364. If you charge too little, you're going to make $40. If you charge too much, you're going to make $0. Right? And this really describes, I think, my experience, probably the experience of a lot of people. You think, okay, I'm going to put this thing out there, it's going to be an enormous hit, I'm going to win the lottery, and I'm going to be doing it. And of course, that doesn't happen. And if you give up at that point, you lost. What you have to do is persist. And of course, Joel Spolsky goes on to say, okay, that doesn't matter, because 3 months down the line, you're going to find out that there's a fix and you forgot. And when you put that in, it'll double to 600. And then another 6 months down the line, you'll improve your website and it'll double again. And that's exactly the experience I had. But it builds up slowly. You can't expect to win the lottery. There's very few people get there. So it's just persistence. The people that stick at it actually do eventually get there. I want to show you my timeline, just to show you that this wasn't an overnight success for me either. I actually got interested in the Mac in 2000. Actually, I've been interested in the Mac for quite a long time, but I really got interested in Mac OS 10 when I started talking about Mac OS 10. And the Mac OS 10 public beta came out, and I actually bought 2 copies. I've still got a boxed copy of the public beta at home. So as a user, I was really interested in the Mac OS 10 from the start. But I wasn't a developer. In 2001, I sort of started getting interested in developing for the Mac. And I started off with Java because I knew Java, and I used the Java bridge to make a crappy little temperature converter or whatever it is that they used to have. And I realized that Java wasn't the way to go, as I think most people did. And so I bought this book. And this was the O'Reilly book, Cocoa with Objective-C. And the thing about this book was, it was the only book, right? Back then there was no other book. There was no average or gas book, right? And this was actually a really terrible book. It was half written by Apple, I think, well, with Apple Docs at least, and it was sort of combined into this mishmash. And it wasn't checked very well, there were bugs in it and all the law. But to me, it was the best book in the world, because this was like the only book I could use to learn code. So for me, it was a great book, even though it was a very seriously flawed book. And one thing I did when I started learning Cocoa is I started developing an app, and I think that's really useful. The best way to learn how to develop apps is to develop apps. So I started developing an app for the Mac called the Trade Strategist. It's a sort of stock market simulation thing, and it was a pretty bad app. If I look back at it, the UI and stuff like that, cringe. But you've got to go through that if you're ever going to get to make decent apps. Right? You've got to make a lot of mistakes and go through those early stages. You've just got to keep doing it. So what I did is I started selling it. I started selling it online, made a website. So I learned a hell of a lot of skills. I learned how to do user support, I learned how to make a website, I learned how to use eCellerate to process my payments. And so I learned a hell of a lot from that app, even though it didn't sell that well. I made a bit of pocket money, maybe $10,000 a year or something like that. It was sort of like a side project, but I did learn a lot, which was useful later on. In 2005, I was kind of sick of doing trade strategies. I had an idea for a new app. The new app was going to be a bit like Jimbo, it was going to be like a Dropbox. The idea that was that you drop things in, like with some text and screenshots and things, but then they would come back out again. So you study, you could schedule them for the future, you could study, you remind them of things. So you put in a website, and then a week later you reminded them. So this was mental case. Okay, this was the idea behind mental case. And actually later on, I thought it was an app for students. It is an app for students now, and it's the same app, but I sort of pivoted. I just pushed it in a different direction. It was obvious that students were using it much more, and it was easier to explain that it's an app for students than it is to say, it's a Dropbox where you vote and stuff comes out again. That's a difficult message, but when you say, my current campaign is study it. I mean, you can't get much more direct than that to study it. So that built up, that was the Mac app, and then in 2008 it changed a lot with the iPhone. The iPhone became the actual thing. I immediately developed an app for the iPhone, and the two would sync up over Wi-Fi, they still do. And then in 2009, the important moment for me was reading the book for our work week, which you've probably all heard of. Some people will think this is like an over-the-top US hype. Partially that's true, but there's a lot of useful information in it as well. It actually inspired me to say, okay, this is what I want to do, I'm going to do. This was the thing that pushed me over the edge. And so I quit my job, and that's where you saw the chart when I started. In 2011, I did a complete rewrite of Mental Case on the Mac. That's what they say you should never do, complete rewrite, but I did it. I don't regret it. It's hard work, but since then the sales have gone a lot. So there is sometimes it is worth doing a complete rewrite, even though it's hard work. Okay, so the point of all that course is it's not overnight. So for me it was really a 10-year journey. It doesn't mean it'll take 10 years for you to get your app business up and running, because most of that time I was just playing around. But it's not going to be. It's also not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to take time to build a business. So what product should you use? You're going to make an app. So you want to start your business, now you've got to pick up an app. Well, I can't tell you, of course, what exact product you should use to do. But what I do want to say is, I don't think you should make the next Twitter card. Well, okay, that's even more pointy now because Twitter got all these rules. But even if Twitter didn't have those rules, I don't think you should make the next Twitter card. And I don't think you should make developer tools. So everyone says you should scratch your own itch. The trouble is then you get a hell of a lot of developer tools. So try to find a niche. If you're a small company, you don't want to compete with really big companies. Try to find a niche that's underrepresented. There's someone that nobody is really doing a good job in. Maybe there's a few apps there that aren't very good, or maybe they don't at all. Some niche that's underrepresented. And preferably that you also have some interest in it, of course. And then make an app for them. Now, I'll give you an example. Like this is a real life example that I like. I used to go onto I used to look at the charts in the education section on the iTunes App Store quite often because I had an app there, so I used to look at the charts. And I just constantly see this icon in the top 10 of top grossing apps in education. In other words, someone making bucket those. And who the hell are they? What is their app? And it's like, the next thing that occurs to you is that app costs $190. $190 iOS app. Whoa. And then you read the blurb and it says, it's an app for people that can't talk. The layout enables them to communicate. Now that's a niche, right? People that can't talk. There aren't that many. Well, there probably are a lot, but it's a niche. It's a small percentage of the population who say, oh, you're never making money in such a small niche. But here's an example of people who make a crap load of money in such a small niche. And good luck to them, I say, because they're helping people. People like that in that situation. Of course, I have to pay $190. I'd be happy to pay much more than that. If it meant that you could actually do that. So look for a niche, make a polished product, and then charge appropriately. If you're in a niche market, you can't charge more than $1. So once you've got your product, polish. That's really important. Make sure your product feels nice, looks nice. Get a designer if you have to. Don't put out something that just doesn't feel right. Personally, I think when you're starting out, it's better to make one really good app than sort of 5 half-hearted apps and then just throw them out and see which one, see what sticks. I don't think that works. Say 5 really bad apps, and just throw it out and see which one takes off. Because I don't think any of them will take off. That's the problem. You've really got to make a polished app before people will notice it. So concentrate, focus, find the best thing, the thing you think is the best chance, and bet on that. I already said you should pivot it to market suggested. I had that experience with MentorPays. I thought it was one thing, and without changing the app too much, it was actually something else. At least that's what the market was telling me. That's where I would make a living. So it's really the same app. I didn't change a hell of a lot. I just changed the focus of the marketing. Price appropriately. If you're in a small niche, that's where I think you should be if you're a small company. Price appropriately. Small niche, high price. My app costs, give you an example. My Mac app costs $30, and my iPhone app costs $5, which is also not cheap in that space. But my Mac app brings in 2/3 of my income, and that's $30. So don't be afraid to charge higher prices if you've got that. Okay, you made a product, it's on the market, you're selling, and you're starting to build up. How should you structure your company? Now, you're a one-man company, for example, or two-man. Well, it used to be the companies were sort of self-contained modules, right? They all had a department of human resources, they all had an IT department, they all had a software department, they all had a management, they all had all these different departments. Each company had these departments. So their own departments. And of course, big companies still do that, right? But the internet has brought new opportunities. These days you can create what I call a component cluster. Right? So it's not actually one, well, there's one company, but it's a small company. And then you cluster you get other companies, internet services and whatnot, to feed into that. In the same way that departments used to do in big companies. So you're making yourself in the center of the solar system, you're the sun, you're the one in the company, and you outsource basically. You get these little companies that have sprung up to service people, to service different things, and you outsource things. Now, I'll give you a very concrete example. These are the things that I outsource. There's my company in the middle, that's the mental faculty. I'm the sun. Something that's very important to me is design. It's really important in this particular area of games. I have a close relationship with my designer, Marcello Ruby. He's got a company called Wrinkly P, and he does all of my sort of Photoshop work. So that's a close relationship. I outsource my Photoshop work because I'm not very good, and I don't particularly enjoy doing it. So. Another really important relationship, of course, is Apple itself. They take care of all the credit card processing, they take care of the banking, they take care of all the other aspects, even things like marketing to some extent if they feature you. Right? So Apple's app stores are another very important part. Recently, I've started to outsource my user support. Initially, I did all that myself. It takes time. It's not very productive time, of course. And it can also be, as I said before, it also can be a bit too personal, right? If people criticise it, then you take it a bit personally. It's better to have a middleman, someone that doesn't care as much as you do, to triage the support. And I only get this really important stuff. I don't get any of the other stuff. So Aptfo is a nice little company for outsourcing your user support. It costs me a couple $100 a month. I think for me it's worth it. I use Aptfo in combination with TenderApp. TenderApp is like basically an online support page for your company. It's quite powerful. They have multiple users, and so Aptfo can read what I'm writing and I can read what they're writing, and we can collaborate on the user support. They set up frequently asked questions and things like that. So TenderApp. I've got financial issues, of course. I've got financial stuff, and then I outsource my bookkeeping, and this is my accountant. I outsource my bookkeeping and my accounting to the accountant. I sometimes need extra coders. I've got a friend who's got a company. I sometimes get them to do 2 or 3 weeks' work on some project that I just don't have time for. So Tuberero is a friend of mine. His company, Tuberero software. I've also used Codeaholic for outsourcing coding. I don't do that often, though. There's time constraints. I've outsourced my localization, right? There's lots of services there. We heard some yesterday from WordCraft about outsourcing of localization. That's very important too. I use Bitbucket to sync up all my source code. So I use Mercurial and Git to push things up into the cloud and make sure that all my Macs have the same code and all the revisions. Amazon for my website. Have for my statistics, right? My campaign monitoring, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute, for emails, mailouts, and back everything up so that if my house is going to be on the screen. Well, we'll be on the screen. Okay, so my point here is that there's a hell of a lot of different services. I use all these services where previously, if I was setting up a company, say 20 years ago, I would have had to build up departments that did all this stuff. A department of email, a department of marketing, a department of user support, a department of coding and admin and finance and whatnot. These days, I can be one man and have effectively other companies working for me. Class stuff. Not a class, company stuff. So, points. Delegate dull or easy stuff. So you find something boring, why do it? I mean, you're supposed to be there to enjoy it. The reason you do this is to enjoy it, right? So I mean, some things you have to do, but if there's something that's repetitive and you can delegate it, like user support, you don't have to do it, just delegate it. If there's something that can be done by other people. Delegate things you're not good at. I'm not good with Photoshop, so I delegate that to a designer. Delegate products or projects that you don't have time for. Yeah, there's a really serious target on the right. You're really busy on some project. Yeah, you might bring another coder for a few weeks to fix those bugs. All these things can be delegated to outsource. Support, design, finance, and localization. Okay, let's finish off with marketing. Now, I'm not the world's best marketing by any means. I'm a pretty lousy marketer. It's not something that interests me, so I'm not very good at it. Although I try, okay? I do try. But it's not something that comes naturally to me at all. There are a few things that I think I've learned over the years that have worked for me. The first thing that I should say is that things like Google AdWords and Facebook ads, I actually do them, but I don't think they're anything above breaking. From the stats that I see, it looks pretty breaking. So I keep doing them in the hope that it's sort of spreading the word or something, but to be honest, the way I trash it, I'm probably doing just as well. So Google AdWords and Facebook haven't really great rewards. What has worked quite well for me is email. So if you can get hold of emails to your customers and emails to potential customers, then they are really useful. And I'm not talking about spamming, I'm not talking about buying some dubious lists from Russia. I'm talking about actually legitimate people opting to receive the newsletter from you. So on my website, for example, if someone clicks download, one of the products, they first go to this page here, and it's opt-in, so they can just click continue. They don't have to fill anything in. But if they want to, they can fill in their email address. And I send them straight to campaign modules, so a simple snippet of JavaScript or something, and that gets added to the list. And I get about 15 email addresses a day from this. It was, for me, surprising quite a lot, more than I expected. So that's 15 a day, it's like, what's that, 500 a month, and 5,000 a year, right? So over a year, you can take 5,000 addresses, that's not too bad. So now I've got more than 10,000. And what do I do with those emails? Well, if I've got a new product, or I've got a new sale, or whatever it is I want to announce, I do a mail out with Campaign Monitor. And that costs, say, a cent an email, so it's like $100 to send out 10,000 emails. You don't want to do this too often, of course, you want to annoy people, but if you do it, say, every 3 months or so, that's okay, or even longer. But why is this useful? Well, this is useful because it gives you traction. If you've got a new product, or a big new release, and you say you release a new product and you don't do anything, I can almost guarantee you'll sit at the bottom of the App Store and no one will buy it. Because no one will see it and notice it. If you've got emails and you send out 10,000 emails, you might get 100 of those people buying the app. And that's usually enough to push you into some sort of category chart, right? So you can be the top 10 of education for me, or top 10 of news readers, or whatever category you're in. And that, of course, is usually just a linear effect where people come in and then, they see you on the list, but now people see the charts are actually buying up as well. So that has worked really well for me. And not only that, but once you're in charts, if Apple see an app skyrocketing up the charts, you're going to notice it. Usually they notice it. And if you're lucky, you'll be putting your name worthy or what's horrible, something like that. So it sort of snowballs, but it all starts with that initial spike of, you've got to get the thing up the charts a little bit, right? And that's where those emails come from, at least for me. I can spike new products, get some traction. Otherwise, trying to climb out of the morass of the App Store is really difficult. If you've got no traction at all, it's like you're running away. Okay, so let's finish off with a second piece of advice on marketing, and that is how you're going to handle your text in the App Store. And what I've learned more recently is that I think it's important to think about your search terms, the things that people would search for, before you write the text, right? I always used to do it the other way. So write the text and I'll just hope that it had the right search terms, pretty much. But I think that's the wrong way, actually. You've got to think about what people will search for. And you need to write that out. Write those search terms. What if you were looking for is that? What would you write? What would you search for? And those are really important terms. And then write your text around those. Sprinkle those throughout your text. Okay? And what about those terms? Well, specific things tend to work better than general things, right? So you can put general terms in, but of course, if someone types in a general term in search, they're going to get a hell of a lot of hits. You're going to be very lucky if you're anyone near the top of that list. So target specific terms, things that are very specific situations that someone might search for an app like yours. Okay? I'll just look at some examples. So language is very general, you can use it if you like, but it's probably not going to help you much. So if someone types in language, they're going to get a few things, right? But if you put in, say, Spanish or Arabic, those sort of things, specific things, and that's what people are going to search for, right? They're going to go into learn Arabic. We're going to search for apps in Arabic. We're going to think, need to learn Arabic. Let's search for language apps. But people don't think like that. So specific, try to be specific. If you're making a public speaking app, okay, put that in, but it's very general again. Public speaking will have a hell of a hits, a hell of a lot of different sorts of apps you can use the term public speaking. But if your app is useful, let's say, for wedding speeches, put in the term wedding speech, because someone is going to be, some people are going to need to make a wedding speech. And what are they going to say? They're probably going to type public speaking, they're going to type wedding or wedding speech, wedding speeches, stuff like that. So think specific is my and finally write your text around search terms. Once you've got those search terms, then write the text. So let's just recap everything. Selling your own products is, in my opinion, a bit like being a painter or a writer. It's a little bit like that. You're working alone. It's intense. It's very rewarding when it goes well, and it's painful when it goes badly, right? Because you are solely responsible. Right? If it goes well, it's a great feeling, you did it, you made a great painting, you made a great app. If it goes badly, it's your fault as well, right? It feels like everyone can use things one failure. Because you can participate that to a team, you can't say, oh, we all stuffed up. It's just you, right? So you're going to be able to. It just depends on the sort of person you are really as to whether that's good or bad. Main advantages, lifestyle, job satisfaction. You choose the projects you run, you can get up when you want, if you like, you can get up late, you can go to Rio de Janeiro for 3 minutes. So lifestyle and job satisfaction. So really it is that red word, a lifestyle company. You can use it that way if you want. If you want to work less, you can. If you like working like I do, I still work full time, but it's just because I like it as much as anything else. Hopefully you can see that you can make a decent salary. It depends, I guess, on what your current salary is, as to whether you regard that as decent. But you can certainly make a good living from this sort of thing. You get it right, but it doesn't happen overnight. Bootstrapping takes time. When you do develop a product, try to develop a product in an underrepresented niche, that's my advice at least. Try to find something where no one's done a good job and do a good job. When things kick off and you start building, initially you're doing it yourself, and then as you get more money, try to start outsourcing things so that you can concentrate on what's really important to your company, software, and things like that. Just start outsourcing to different companies, make a company cluster. Delegate where possible. And in terms of marketing, mail outs in my opinion work well. You can have a button in your app, for example, to add yourself to the mailing list, or you have a button, or you have something on your website like I do. But try to collect email addresses. They really are very useful for spiking in production and stuff, and sales and whatnot. And also, when you're running your text in the App Store, consider what people will search for. And this applies equally well to websites, of course. I mean, it's, think about what people search for. Google search is actually really important to my company. Back it up with one and flash card from that. So Google search is very important, and that comes down to also getting those search terms right. What will people search for? Okay, that's all for fun. So thanks. There's my Twitter and email and my website. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for reading out. Obviously, we don't have time right now for questions, but because we're running a little bit of time, but we can do a short break of like 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. And yeah, thank you, Ruben. And yeah, the question, you know the room? It's the tiny room over there, and you will be there. And yeah, approach it, whatever.
Okay.